Good morning, everybody, and welcome to today's webinar where we're unveiling our newest kind of addition to the portfolio as a item. It's going to be called Foundation Pay or Foundation Pay Accounts Receivable. Today, I have on the line on the webinar with me, obviously myself. I am a client sales representative here at Foundation. I've been with the company for a little while. I've worked on our support team and our training team, and now I work in client sales, kind of helping direct our current clients as to what products and items can be of use to their business and increase productivity on their end. I also have Brian. He's our business development manager. He's been working on this partnership and the addition of this product for a couple of years now. And from a training aspect, and when I used to work in implementation, this is something that was very heavily requested as kind of a line that Foundation didn't have previously, this kind of fintech stack. So this is the first release of a couple of different things that we're going to be doing moving forward, this Foundation Pay in general. The first of those is going to be the account receivable and the receiving of electronic payments through a nice integrated portal, but we're going to have some other stuff coming down the line. So if this one isn't necessarily for you, we might have some other items kind of in this realm, whether it be on the accounts payable side or the expenses, moving on down through the pipeline through the end of the year into next year. So let's go ahead and actually jump into what this is in general. I'm going to open up my Foundation screen, and I'm just going to talk to you about what this product is going to be and how it can benefit your business. So we decided to partner with a company, Basys, to offer electronic payments through for account receivable. It's going to be directly integrated into your Foundation database, and you're going to be able to pass along a portal link to your customers and allow them to pay invoices through that portal and sync them back into Foundation using the cash receipt sync. And that's kind of a little bit of a newer item that some of you may have noticed in your database already. Why did we choose Basys as a company? A couple of things. As a credit card processing company, they don't outsource anything, from support or training or anything of that nature. They're very similar to us. They do everything in-house. Another, big item on their end is something called a Net Promoter Score. And what that is, if you're not familiar with it, is it's a customer experience metric that measures how likely customers are to recommend that company to others. So Basys's customers are typically, very likely to recommend that product or service to other companies on their end after their experiences with them. So they typically score in the higher 70s, which is industry leading on their end. Typical companies in their industry score somewhere around 30 or below. And a couple of other items before just showing you and just kind of talking up why we chose to partner with Basys, because we don't really take partnerships lightly here at Foundation. It's not something that we often do, especially one that's directly integrated into the Foundation database. Is when you call them, you're going to get on the phone 99% of the time within 3 rings with a person at their office. 90% of their calls are solved within the first phone call. And lastly, with this partnership, what we're able to do is offer competitive rates through bulk partnership. Because you're a Foundation client, you're able to get special pricing, on that end. So let's jump into, the actual, process and what you guys would be doing and how it can enhance your guys' processes on your end in the database. So in terms of what we're going to be doing in accounts receivable or sending out invoices, really isn't going to change very much, but I will show you a couple of things that we can adjust here. So I'm just going to go right into accounts receivable and go into enter invoices. When I get in here, I'm just going to pull up an invoice that I already entered a little bit earlier, just so you guys don't have to watch me struggle through entering a full invoice. So I went ahead and entered this invoice into the system. We can go ahead and design new invoices for you or add these items onto your current invoices. And I'll show you what that means. So when we go ahead and print out these invoices, we're going to be able to add a unique company portal link to those invoices in the system, or QR code, so that your customers are actually able to go ahead and get on and click the scan the QR code or get into the portal link to pay those invoices directly back to you in Foundation. So we process an invoice as normal in here and go ahead and post it. So I'll go ahead and go into my list and I'll post that invoice into the system. And then we can go ahead and print email through whatever means you typically do. If you are still, if we're mailing out invoices in the system, and I'll go ahead and select that number that we just went ahead and entered, then we can get the printable, we can take it out to a PDF, and we can send that out. And you can actually see, if I zoom out here a little bit, that QR code and that portal link to pay invoices down at the very bottom. So if we want to go to PDF, we can do that. We can take it into our own Outlook or email service, send out the invoice, or send it via mail, whatever you guys are typically doing. If we want to send it directly out of Foundation, we can use the email function in Foundation and generate an email from here. We can build out a template for you in the system that links that link, that portal link in there for you again with the information. So we'll pass that information along to your customers through various means that kind of fit what you guys are typically already doing. And then what they're going to be able to do is jump right into a portal link. So where I'm at here is going to be custom to your company. Mine says Foundation Software Outstanding Invoices and has a little credit card scanning screen here. But this can be customized for your business. It can have your guys' logo on it, images, however you guys want this to look or front face to your customers. We can definitely do that. What we're going to need, or your customers would need to go and make payments, is going to be their customer ID, which we can add to invoices, so it's really easy for them to find. And they need their zip code. When they go ahead and go to proceed to payment, they're going to see any outstanding invoices in the system, and they're going to be able to pay those invoices individually or in bulk directly through this screen here. So we can actually see that invoice that we just entered down in Foundation, down here at the very bottom for $2,500. That's how quick it is. Once it's entered and it's posted into Foundation, it'll immediately be linked out into the portal and available for payment pretty much automatically here. So they can select those invoices for payment in the system, and they can choose to pay via credit card or ACH. So a couple different pricing options. And the pricing we're not going to necessarily discuss in this webinar, but if you did want the rates and what they would look like, you reach out to me directly. I'll put my information up at the very end, and if there's any questions, you can email me directly. So we can then go as the customer and make that payment via credit card or ACH, put their information in. If we're going to pass along an admin fee to them, we can build that in, or we don't have to do that as well. We can take off the admin fee and just allow them to pay that information directly as to what they have due. And that kind of goes back into there's a couple different items that we can do pricing wise depending on what you have. So I'm going to go ahead and put in some basic information as if I'm the customer making the payment information here, credit card information, put in the codes, and then all they have to do is simply hit pay now, and it will process their payment through the portal, again powered by Basys. It'll mark it as received. Once it's been received, they can go back and they can pay more invoices. That's what the process will typically look like, and they can do this over and over again. This link up here at the very top is unique to your company, and that's the link that you'll send out to all of your customers, and they all log into the same link, but they only see their invoices based off of number and zip code. It's kind of unique to them and only pull up their items. The nice thing about this is, if you're not using a credit card process or you want to, it's going to be integrated back into Foundation on the other side as well. So when I jump back into Foundation now, I can actually close down and I can go into my cash receipt sync area, and I can receive my cash receipts directly back from the portal. So if I go back in here, you'll see those cash receipts sitting out there, and you simply select to import those items and sync them directly back into your Foundation screen. So this integration is going to allow you to integrate your payments to your customers and give them out, allowing them to pay it and then receive it directly back into the system. It's going to streamline a lot of data entry and kind of streamline your speed to cash, because we're not going to have to chase down payments anymore. We're not going to have to wait for checks to clear or anything of that nature. It'll flow directly back. Whereas with Basys, what they offer is next day funding. Customer makes payment through Basys portal, money's in the account the next day, which is really nice. It's going to streamline a lot of cash receipts and receiving your cash on time, as well as it all being integrated into your ERP or foundation here on the back end. So that's kind of the process in general. Is this we booked out this webinar to be a little bit longer, but it's not necessarily something that has to take an hour to show, because it's a pretty streamlined process. It's very straightforward and very useful. The things that we're going to do, I'm going to go ahead and recap what we've looked at, and then we're going to open it up for Q&A at the end, and just allow anybody to jump in and throw in questions and kind of go over those questions with myself and Brian. So to recap, before we get to the questions, the two things that we've typically run into with our foundation clients is going to be clients that already receive credit cards. So if you're already receiving credit card payments or ACH payments, electronic payments, what we're going to be able to do is typically we're saving clients money on their fees because of this partnership that we're offering with Basys. So you're going to be saving on fees, and you're going to have that integrated solution directly back into your accounts receivable area, directly into Foundation. And if you're not accepting electronic payments right now, what this can do is really modernize your company, allow you to receive cash quick, and nice integrated solution, and really get with the times, get into the 21st century and not have to chase down checks or wait for checks to clear and things of that nature. So the people that already are using this have been very happy with it. It is streamlining this process very much. So I'm going to go ahead and open it up for some Q&A here. And the other thing I do like to point out before we do get some questions on it is we are recording this session. So if you missed the first couple minutes or you wanted to pass along this webinar to anybody else, we will send you a copy of the webinar after it's done recording. So we're just going to give some time here to let some questions roll through and kind of go from there.
Dylan, can you hear me?
Yes, I can, Brian.
All right, good. Just want to make sure I'm on here. So we have some questions that have already popped up here. I don't know if you want to handle them. They're coming in pretty quick. So let's kind of start at the top. And I just lost my little window here, so give me a second. All right. So the first question that I'm seeing here is, these are popping in really quick, so this is scrolling. Hang on. Is the customer able to view invoices on this platform? So no, the images of the invoices are not stored through the payment portal. Those are stored within Foundation, obviously. So they are not able to access those directly through the portal. What you saw on Dylan's screen is just the list of the transactions, the invoices that are outstanding. That is what the paying customer would be seeing. Can we only offer one choice? Example, only bank accounts and or credit card. No, I believe when we're using this Basys portal, again, their primary business is in processing credit cards. That is first and foremost. They do offer the ACH option, but it's up to you as to whether or not you want to extend that option out to your customers. But you will be offering credit card payments. And again, you can pass the credit card processing fee on to the customer, or you can choose to get that cost as well. But that is an option that you'd be offered through Basys. And again, they do offer the ACH acceptance as well. What you are able to do is put a limit on how much you are willing to accept on a credit card, in which case they would not be allowed to select or put in payment information if the amount they've selected to pay exceeds that value.
And I can take the next question here, Brian, about AIAs, kind of in general. So we just had a question kind of roll through on AIAs and sending those out. So, I mean, it's not really going to change your current processes with invoices. And I guess this is nice to mention for other types of billing that you do in Foundation, whether the invoice is generated through accounts receivable or time and material, service dispatch, unit price billing, AIA functions, all of those different areas outside of accounts receivable, like lump sum or quantity invoices, flow back into accounts receivable to create the invoice. It goes on the aging report. No matter where it's generated from, it'll flow into that invoice portal from there because it's hitting accounts receivable. Customer will then be able to make the payment through the portal, and it'll flow back into the cash receipts and mark it as paid. So again, no matter where you're really starting the billing from, because those all flow back into Foundation, and pretty impossible to cover every single billing option in Foundation within this webinar. But just know, no matter where you're initiating those from, as long as they're flowing back into accounts receivable, they're going to show on the portal. Doesn't really
Yeah.
change any kind of current AIA invoicing processes or unit price billing processes at that point. Just obviously, if this is something that you would go with, we'd want to notify our customers that, hey, we receive payments online now. If you'd like to use that, here's our link, here's our QR code, so on and so forth, and then kind of roll from there.
Yeah, and as Dylan mentioned, keep in mind that the payment link is not specific to an invoice. That payment portal link is your custom payment portal for all of your customers for all of their invoices. So by your customers logging in with their client ID and zip code, that's what links them to their account. So as long as you can communicate that URL to your customers through any means, and they have that stored somewhere, they don't need a paper invoice or an electronic invoice to be able to go there. They can navigate right to the portal, log in, and see everything that they owe you. Dylan,
Next question here, Brian. Yeah, the admin fee gets applied. Yeah, so we have a question here. It says, how does the admin fee get applied to the job? So the admin fee, if that's the pricing structure that you choose, we have a couple different options, really dependent on what you want to do as a company. Again, we can go over that kind of one-on-one and give you more details on it, but how does the admin fee get applied to the job? So if there's an administrative fee that comes back into the system, that will get put onto, you know, a separate, link with all of your information. So the cash receipt will just come back as the invoice amount, $1,000 invoice. We had $1,000 payment. The 3% fee, if you guys did choose to add that, would be really more of a washing out of the, a typical fee that you guys might be getting charged from the credit card processing company. So 3 to 3 or whatever the number would be, it would be a wash out on that end. So those fees would get totaled at the end of the month and sent to you for entry into Foundation as like a general ledger entry. That kind of matches out, right, Brian?
Yeah, so if you are charging the fee, like Dylan said, it's a wash, right? What you are charging the fee to the customer is going to be the processing cost at the end of the month. So, a journal entry basically to recognize the fee that came in and the expense and the cash coming out to pay Basys would be a wash. If you are not charging a processing fee and you are eating that cost, there's no automatic application of that cost to a project. You would recognize that as a lump sum cost at the end of the month. You do not get hit with that cost on every single transaction. You receive a month-end statement from Basys that says, okay, here's all your transactions, and based off of the agreement you have with Basys, here's what your processing costs are for the month. There might be a way, and like Dylan said, we can deal that kind of one-on-one, but there may be a way through some form of overhead allocation or automated process to distribute that expense across jobs, but it's generally just going to be absorbed as a G&A expense.
Yeah, and I got a couple of other questions kind of rolling through here on ACH, and I'm going to jump back in here to the portal just to kind of show that. So if you guys did want to offer ACH payments and do that, they basically just put their information in just like the credit card. They just select this other option, put in their information and their payment method, checking savings account, routing numbers, and they can choose to send a receipt to themselves and pay now through the portal. So very similar to how the flow of it, they just make a different selection here when they log into the portal. So customers can pay, through ACH. You guys can offer that, but it would be, if you're offering ACH, you're also offering credit card payments as well. Kind of works both ways on that portal, and the fees vary depending on exactly what we're doing on that end. And another question here on the actual invoice of the portal, or can they actually see the invoice? Invoices are sent through whatever means you typically do. email through the system or outside of the system, or however you guys typically get invoices, there's not going to be a link to the printable or PDF invoice in the portal, just the invoice numbers, amounts due, and then the availability to pay that on there. And then Brian here, I'll let you kind of handle this one. I have ACH payment flow directly to bank account through third party first, question mark? You wanted to?
Not sure what exactly that means. So the flow of cash isn't really through the third party. It is just the movement of money. The credit card funding is a little bit different. So technically, I mean, and this is why there's an application and underwriting process when you go through this, because technically, Basys is very likely depositing monies into your account before the payments are actually cleared and deposited into their account. And so the underwriting process is some security for them. Obviously, if there's any chargeback, if the customer were to dispute the charge with the payment provider and so on. So I don't think it's going through the third party first, if that makes sense. And these are all questions.
We can go through it in more detail one-on-one. That makes sense on that end. Appreciate it.
Right.
The next one is, how would we process a refund? I'll kind of just show it briefly here. You'll have a portal login as a customer of Basys that you can log into and get into the system. So once I'm logged in, you'll have a list of transactions. And if this is something that comes up, you can reach out to their support team directly. And let me actually get logged in here and get into my environment. When I go to transactions over here on the left, once it loads up, just give me one moment. Go to reporting, go to transactions. If there are any transactions that need to have any kind of refund, we can handle that through the portal here. And the Basys team, whether you call them or you do it yourself, can definitely help you out with that. That'll be a part of any kind of training process or implementation process that you would go through. It's showing you how to do that. And then if you had any ongoing issues or needed to do that, again, we can go into this. You could reach out to them. They'll pick it up and help you out with that.
Right. Just to be clear, when you're going through that IQ Pro portal for a refund, that is not something that is integrated with the foundation application. So if you're doing that, obviously on the other side, you need to recognize that that payment has been refunded, a negative cash receipt to the invoice through the cash receipt system.
Hopefully we're not having to process too many refunds. But yeah, we do have processes in place if that does happen.
Yeah, with the clients that are already using this, I've not heard of anyone that has processed a return. So the next question, Dylan, will this work with Service Mobile?
So it depends on exactly what you're doing with Service Mobile. If we're actually creating billings out on site, it's not going to be integrated into Service Mobile as like a something that they can receive payment through. But if you guys use Service Mobile to do your work orders, create the billing back in Foundation, and that's what I see 95% of our customers doing, then invoice gets created, and then again, it works back through this entire process that we saw. Invoice gets created in service, goes to accounts receivable, is available on the customer's portal for them to pay, and kind of works in that same direction that we saw during the demo.
You already showed how the bank option works. This is a really good question. Is passing the credit card fee on to the customer legal in all states? So this is another reason why we partnered with Basys in this space. So obviously, payments can be very complicated, whether it's incoming or outgoing, and the legalities around it, managing PCI data, things like that. So Basys can advise you on the legality. Now, there's terminology, if you call it a credit card processing fee versus an administrative fee or convenience fee, surcharge, and so on. So they are up to date on all of the legalities for all the different states and would advise you through your setup process what you can and cannot do.
Nice, Brian. Appreciate it. And then is next day funding available for both ACH and credit cards?
That's a good question. And again, it's dependent on how these things are being made and how the settlement process is is done. This is going to be something that would be, I think, directed a little more specifically to the Basys team during the application and underwriting process. Uh, I know the money flows very quickly, and I believe it is available on both of these options.
Yeah, that was my understanding as well. Next one, can we add the link to a third-party invoice for customers to reference? Yeah, you can provide that link in whatever method you guys want, email, on invoices, things of that nature. And that, again, that portal is not specific to a specific, or the portal link is not tied to one specific invoice or one specific customer. It's tied more to you as a company, and then anybody can get into that portal and log in and see their data, make their payments, so on and so forth.
Yep. Can you make customizations of whether they can just use ACH or credit card based on the individual invoice or customer? I don't believe you can do that. I think this is a fairly standard across the board option. I think the limitation that you would want to maybe implement would be the amount accepted by card, which again, if it's a huge invoice and you say we're limiting it to $10,000 max per credit card transaction, it's not going to allow them to pay by card. They would have to pay by ACH. But it is not customizable on a per customer or per invoice basis.
All right. Got the next question here. Can payments be streamlined to be automated to post a customer account? I believe that's just talking, if I'm reading this right, Brian, that's just talking about posting back into the cash receipts to update the customer account back in Foundation. And yes, that is streamlined. It's synced directly back into Foundation using, there's a new feature under Accounts Receivable Daily. Instead of record cash receipts, it's sync in cash receipts. And that is going to be the Foundation Pay AR portal link back to post those payments in Foundation and update aging reports, statements, so on and so forth.
Yeah. Now, if the question is asking, can you bypass the posting process and have that automatically just be posted into the system, that unfortunately can't be done. There are validations in the system that have to be done, and that's what the sync process does. So you still do have to do the sync and post process, but there is no data entry.
For sure, and that's what we do with all of our products, not just this. I mean, whether we be talking about an HQ Suite product or anything, anytime information is going to flow back into Foundation, eyes got to be on it by someone in Foundation to basically do the last second approval of that data, make sure it's valid, validation processes, make sure it looks good, and then post it. So there has to be some eyes. Nothing is going to be automatically posted.
Yep. The next good question, can they do partial payments? Basys is working on that capability right now. They were waiting on a update that we had to make to Foundation to accommodate the partial payments process. So it is in development. I'm not sure exactly when that will be available, but customers will have the ability to make partial payments. I would say probably by year end, if not early first quarter.
Yeah, and that'll be a nice feature for sure. That's something that has been asked, and that's why we're kind of already on it and working on. So right now, just the full ones, but that'll come in time.
Yep. Next one is taking payment over the phone or in person. Absolutely. Basically, as long as you know the customer name or customer number and zip code, you yourself can log into the portal and key that information in, and that will flow through just as if the customer did it. So yes, you can absolutely do that. The other option is to take it through the Basys IQ Pro system that you would have as an admin, but that doesn't push into Foundation. So your best bet is to use the payment portal and just log in as if you were the customer to enter their data.
Yep.
And the next question is there notice that payments have received when the customer pays? Yeah, you would have an email set up with Basys, and every time you get a payment, that email would be sent over to whomever you have set up to receive it. And again, at that point, you can log in and sync it. You can wait till the end of a day. If you typically receive multiple payments throughout a day, you can let it sit till the end of the week, however often you want to go in and sync those over.
Cool. Yeah, and then I see a couple questions here, and I know we're not running really long, but we're right at the halfway point here, and we do still have some questions coming in. But I want to point out, I see someone asking about pricing. If you want to look into this further, if your question's already been answered, or anything of that nature, my email, phone number are down here on the screen. If you email me directly, dkilpatrick@foundationsoft.com, I can jump on with you. We can discuss pricing. Take a look at current merchant statements and see what you guys are paying in fees there, and get you some nice pricing on the fees for Basys and this integration. So if you want more information on this, is something you're excited about, and want to get more information, just reach out to me directly, and I can get you going if that is something that you want to take a look at.
So next question, can you set parameters for the admin fee? For example, only have the admin fee on charges over $1,000. That is a question that would need to be run by the Basys team. I'm not sure 100%. I want to say that it is a possibility, but again, we would have to confirm that with the Basys team. I know you. The next question says, I know we can set a credit card limit, but is there an ACH limit? Is there an overall foundation limit? A limit on ACH, so they can. I'm assuming that's asking, can you limit how much they're paying via ACH? Again, a good question that I am not 100% certain of. Is there an overall foundation limit? There is not. I mean, so basically, as long as the portal is set up to allow a full payment, if you want to receive $1.5 million electronically, you can. We've actually had a couple clients recently take payments on invoices in the $400,000 to $500,000 range.
Next question is is Basys handling the credit card payments so that we don't have to accept credit cards ourselves? And I mean, they're not going to be reaching out to your customers or anything of that nature on your behalf. They're going to be giving you this tool to receive the credit card payments. They're going to process everything in the background, get you that cash next day, make sure everything looks good, and then integrate it back into the portal. But it still is something that you guys would have to relay to your customers on the other end. And then that kind of piggybacks into the next question. Did you have something to add there on that, Brian?
Yeah, I mean, so again, they are a payment processor. You are a merchant. So basically, they are a merchant service provider, and you become the merchant. So you are accepting credit cards at this point. Again, they just automate that process so that you don't have to physically go in and accept cards over the phone or manually.
Nice. And then it says, is that link or the QR code generic? Again, just kind of reiterating this point that link is specific to the company. You can generate a QR code as well. If you'd like to post that on your website as a link there that someone can go into and say, hey, pay online, click the link, scan the QR code. You can 100% do that. There's just one QR code for everything. You're able to just generically post that if needed, and then they have to log in, put in their customer IDs, zip codes, and then they get their data through there. So it is something that you can post on your invoices. That'll be just across all invoices. We don't have to do a lot of work to put it on every single invoice for something. It's really easy to use.
There's a question about approximate pricing for this. If you're talking about the add-on for Foundation, it's not like a fee that you're going to be paying Foundation. This is a service provided right through the functionality of the software. In terms of the Basys pricing, what I will say, I believe we have 10 active clients processing through Basys, and every single one of them is saving a significant portion of the processing fees once they convert it over.
For sure, so, yeah, that's definitely what we've been seeing. If you're using a different credit card processor, we're typically able to save you money and give you a more integrated solution than you're currently using, where you're accepting payments and having to do manual cash receipts in the system and kind of work back and forth. If you're not using credit card, processing company. Because again, we're partnering with Basys and we've been pretty selective on who we're partnering with this on, we're able to offer nice bulk competitive rates to offer this service on that end. And again, if you want to further discuss that pricing, what it looked like for your company, you can reach out to me. Again, my email's at the bottom here, dkilpatrick@foundationsoft.com.
Yep. Next question is, will the portal include aging records for those customers with the potential to add late fees? And will those invoices, or will they need to be recreated? So it doesn't contain aging information. As you saw in the portal, it is, here's your invoice, here's what's due. Yeah, thanks. Remaining retainage and so on. If you do generate late fees through Foundation, those late fees become their own invoice, and once they're generated and posted, it will show up as a separate transaction here on this list. So those technically are not being recreated. The original invoice is out there. The late fee invoice shows up as a separate transaction. We talked about partial payments and how will the portal look to show the invoice after the partial payment. Your paid to date column will be updated. How would I set up my bank account to make it go into your account? That is part of the application and onboarding process that you would engage with Basys processing. Can a payment be reversed by the customer once processed? Absolutely not. They would have to contact you and say, hey, I made this payment in error, and you determine whether or not you want to issue a refund.
Go ahead and jump down here on this next question. Is this a new add-on from Foundation? You guys pay Basys? Question mark. I mean, so just to kind of explain, I mean, this is a unique partnership that we're offering with a direct integration solution directly like in Foundation. So we're partnering with Basys, or this is being powered by Basys. So you work with us, and then we pass you over to them, and they will walk you through all of the processes. So it is a partnership between the two companies, unlike any that we've really done in the past. And that's because we feel like we've really found the right partner in Basys, and all their values and what they do as a company and what they've been doing for 20 years on their end feels like, and they have the track record to treat our clients well, and that's kind of the reason we went in this direction. And Brian, you could probably speak to this a little bit more since you've been the one with boots on the ground on this thing for the last year and a half, as to why we went with the Basys partnership. But I think I kind of covered it pretty well there.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I mean, this is kind of a pass through here, right? This is a service that a lot of clients have been asking for, and this company best fit the model of who we felt would give a similar customer experience to what you guys are accustomed to receiving with Foundation, from a customer service, onboarding, professionalism, having calls answered by live bodies, and so on.
One on the admin fees here based off of credit cards. It's that admin fee is so just on all credit cards that you guys would put if you guys wanted to add onto the system. So if you guys were going to do those kind of pass along fees for the credit card processing fees, these admin fees, then that price would be set at the fixed rate that we come in at. This 3% is just kind of a dummy rate here, just to kind of show what it would look like. But again, we can get into specific fees and pricing, whether or not we want to do pass along or just eat the fees as a company, to offer this as a way to receive payments quicker. Again, we could talk about all those things kind of individually and get you more details.
Yeah, there's a question about the QR code that was generated and integrating with the AIAs. And again, the custom documents like the unit price billing and the AIA billings, there's nothing that can be added to those because they are fixed format documents. The QR code would be able to be added to an email that you're sending out as part of the body, or the link would be out as part of the body on the email, but not to the actual document itself.
Yeah, and then there's another question here kind of going off of that. Can we pick and choose which customers have access to this? As long as you don't pass along the link to the portal or QR code, then yes, you can only give it to certain people. We can set up multiple invoice formats so that maybe some of your invoice formats use one, and some of your customers use a different format. completely up to you as to who gets, passed along the portal link. If they have access to the portal link, they're going to be able to log on and make the payment. But if you don't, email that to them or put it on an invoice or on your website or anything of that nature, if you're very specific and pick and choose who it's sent to, then yeah, you can only pass this along to certain people.
All right. How many of your clients are currently using this? As I mentioned previously, there, I believe, are 10 currently active processing through Basys. And I just had a meeting with them earlier this week, and there are 11 additional clients that are either in the queue to be trained or in the underwriting process. Once they're approved, they'll be moved into the queue to be brought up to speed and trained on this as well. So,
And we've gotten really good feedback on the people that are using this already. We feel comfortable kind of rolling this out. We've worked through a lot of questions and tweaked the portal and made sure that it's working and functioning very well. So it's something that we feel like is going to be a big value to the rest of our clients, which is why we're unveiling this and trying and pushing this out before the end of the year.
Yeah. So another question is, how does Basys receive your customer invoice information? So there's an onboarding process with Basys. You would need in Foundation to create a user ID called Basys, and they would connect to your data through an ODBC connection to gather that information. It is secure. They only have access to the required information for billing and for writing the pending cash receipt data into the system. And if you piggyback that onto another question about, does this work in on-premise or is it only in the hosted environment? That's a great question. Right now, it is only working in the hosted environment. We are looking at solutions to support it in on-premise, but that is a very difficult thing to support because everybody's on-premise environment is different. So that opens the door for a lot of connectivity issues and potentially lower service levels. So the suggestion would be to really consider moving over to the hosted environment if this is something that's important to you for sure.
Another question on partial payments here. Again, we're working on that on the partial payment end coming through. And then we have another question here, Brian, on next day funding is something that needs to be verified by Basys. What they offer next day funding, that's kind of one of their big things. So it's going to be speed to cash and getting you the payments. So it's to be verified by Basys. I mean, you're going to go through an entire underwriting process to just make sure everything is going to work out on their end. Or if they notice anything of issue, then they'll kind of go through it that way. So we'll do the initial talk, and when we pass along Basys, we'll make sure that everything looks good to be able to provide that next day funding that they do. And then it says, does the platform save payment information? I guess this is a good question, Brian, on Basys and PCI compliance. So right. Basys has an entire team that kind of works on PCI compliance and just making sure that companies are staying compliant with storing things and stuff of that nature, and making sure that these payments aren't being stored. When we go onto the portal, you'll notice that I had to type in all my information. It's not going to store any payment information on their end, and they're pretty stringent on what they do, and you'll go through an entire process. So they've kind of streamlined that PCI compliance process to make sure that you guys are going to be compliant and that there's no issues with the storing of data or anything of that nature, because it doesn't. The portal doesn't store any data, and it just kind of allows a one-time use. Enter the information, and then next time they log in, they'll have to do the same thing again.
Yeah, and if you ever used your own personal card to make payments on a computer, as you go into the billing information and start typing in the payment method, if you saved your payment data into whatever Google Wallet or whatever it is you're using, that information is stored on your computer and can be populated into these fields, but it is not stored in the portal itself.
Next question. Go ahead.
Yeah, is there a foundation fee and a Basys fee, or is it just one fee? Again, Foundation is not charging for this integration or for anything related to this. So from a Foundation perspective, there's nothing you would need to do other than engage with Dylan, and he can get you connected to the Basys team. And again, the Basys team then can talk to you about the pricing. There's just a flat monthly fee, like you would have with any other processing company. And then again, the fees for the actual processing of cards. They're very clear, they're very transparent, and there's no guesswork.
For sure. It says, what if the customer does not know their customer ID? This might be a part of the client reach out that you do initially, to let your clients know that they can pay online. In my system, I did go ahead and add it onto my invoice. So in Foundation, when I went into, let's just say we were printing a statement out as an example, and I wanted to pull that up, we can add their customer number, and this one is a little bit bolded here, but this is a statement or an invoice. We can add their customer number, so they're very easily able to pull that off of the system. If we're emailing out of the system, I can also, as a default in my template, oh, and it doesn't look like I have a template build for the statements, but what we can do is we can actually merge the customer number into the email as well. So I can insert a merged field, and I can merge in the customer number for sending out a statement or an invoice. So we can put it on the invoice, we can put it on the statement, we can add it in the emails that are being put out of the system. There's a couple of different methods to passing that information along, because that might not be something that they currently know what their customer ID is with you, but there's a couple of different ways that we can pass that information along to them. And then we have
Prepayment.
one.
Good question about prepayments. Can a customer make prepayments? Does there have to be an invoice prior to payment? Yeah, prepayments are not able to be made because there's no invoice that would be displayed in the portal to make a payment against. So yes, an invoice has to be created and posted within Foundation using whatever vehicle that you use to create those invoices. Once they're in and posted in Foundation, they will show up in the portal for payment.
And lastly, got a couple questions from one person here. Would we be able to customize an invoice that didn't include a QR code for paying this way? Yes, you could definitely do that. And then the last piece of that is another question again on, do we need to be PCI compliant, and or do they handle that? Yes. During the application and underwriting and approval process on their end, if it's something that we're moving forward with, they have an entire team that will help you, make sure you're PCI compliant, fill out any documents, and just make sure everything's kind of straight on that end. This is what they've been doing for 20 years, and this is again kind of feeds back into one of the reasons we partnered with a company, is because we wanted someone with this expertise that has been doing this for a long time, that has their customers speak on them very highly. They handle everything in house. That's one of the main reasons we went over to offer this as a option to our clients, with an integrated, directly synced into Foundation solution. And as we were talking, a couple more questions coming in, which is good. We were told, just trying to read this. Yeah, so another prepayment one. So there is no, again, the invoice does have to be in Foundation. We have concerns about customer pulling up the wrong customer invoice because they simply entered the wrong information. Is there anything that can be done, additional code or limit to attempt before viewing those invoices? They'd have to be putting in some very specific information to their company to be able to do that. We haven't ran into any issues with that, but it's something that we could definitely take a look at. But at this time, I mean, they have their login information as a customer of yours to your portal link. Shouldn't be any issues with logging into other customers and paying invoices on their behalf. That'd be an oddity, or an odd one there.
Yeah.
And then the last, go ahead.
No, so there's one about a question about being PCI compliant, or does Basys handle that? So as a merchant who's accepting cards, there are definitely things that you as a company need to have in place in order to, quote, be PCI compliant. The thing is that Basys has these checks and balances in place and audits for that on a regular basis. So they do their due diligence to help make sure that you are in compliance. Again, using this portal, you are not collecting any card information. So there's no compliance issue on that side. When you are going through their IQ Pro portal, if you're accepting card payment over the phone, and if you're writing down that data, things like that, those are things that you need to be concerned with. So That is something, again, why we partnered with a company that specifically works in this space, is because that does offer protection for you. Jumping back to the prepayments, one of the attendees had mentioned that as they were talking with them, with Basys, they were told that they could create a separate link that would allow for a prepayment, which is a good point, but it is not something that is done through the Foundation integrated payment portal. If you're able to do that through the IQ Pro portal to provide to your customers, they can, of course, go in and make a payment and you would receive that, but there's no invoice to tie that to. So you would have to be responsible for entering that information into Foundation, however you currently accept prepayments or deposits.
Now, it looks like we just have one more question here on recurring invoices and payments through this. So we can set up recurring invoices within Foundation that would push to the portal and allow payment, but nothing that's going to automatically set up like a recurring invoice slash payment through the portal at this time. So
actually, Dylan, let me jump in there, because depending on how you're using recurring billing through Foundation, those recurring templates can also allow you to say that a payment is being made along with the recurring billing. Dylan, are you able to go into your AR recurring templates?
Yes.
In Foundation. Yeah, so yep, daily, and then recurring invoice templates. There you go. And go ahead and just add a new one. I don't know what you need to do to just put in the basic customer and a job, maybe.
Yeah, so it would probably be customer and job. And we don't have to get too much in the weeds here, but we have the ability to generate
on the payment tab
template in here.
But on the payment tab. So on the payment tab, if you, on your recurring billing, go ahead and change the payment type from not applicable to credit card. And of course, the payment amount would be the same amount as the recurring, right? So now, when you generate this recurring invoice and post it, it will post both the receivable and the payment. Through the Basys portal, not the integrated one with Foundation, but through their IQ Pro portal, I was told that they do have the ability to set up automatic charges. So each month, they would automatically draw on the customer's card. And when you generate the recurring billing here, it'll record the invoice and the payment. So again, while they're not technically integrated, they're both automatic.
Yeah, so we can kind of a little bit of a workaround, but definitely something that can be done. I like it. So questions have slowed down here. Don't see any other ones coming in. So we're right on the dot here. We're at 53 minutes for the webinar, which is great. We appreciate all the questions that are coming in. Again, if you want more information on this integration, go over it in more detail, talk about how to work for your specific company, pricing and things of that nature. Couple of us over here that'll be handling it, but if you want to email me directly, dkilpatrick@foundationsoft.com, you could do that down here at the very bottom. If you think of any questions after the webinar is over that you forgot to ask, again, reach out to me and we can go over those. And I do like to point out again that we will be sending out this recording so that anyone can you forward it off to anybody else at the company or take a look at it and kind of go from there. But again, this is something we're really excited about, something our customers have been asking for a while. And again, the two scenarios we've been running into, either we're receiving payments electronically already, which we're able to with this partnership and this bulk pricing partnership that we're able to offer. Most clients have been saving on their fees that they have already, compared to the other credit card processors, and you're going to get the integration. And if this is something that you guys want to offer for the first time, Basys is a great company to do this because they're going to walk you through the entire implementation, make sure everything's, you feel comfortable with everything and offer this kind of moving forward. So appreciate everybody jumping in today for this kind of introduction webinar to this new things. And again, remember, we do have some other fintech kind of things coming out along with this Foundation Pay AR. We're going to be getting into some stuff on the accounts payable side and expenses side as well. So keep an eye for that stuff kind of as we move forward here. So hope everyone has a great rest of your day. And again, appreciate jumping on the webinar.